Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a 2009 United States 1-cent coin and realizing that a piece of copper-plated zinc struck in the year of Abraham Lincoln's bicentennial might not be just a normal penny tossed into change jars, because beneath its modest face value lies a world of numismatic nuance, collector history, error-driven rarity, and market behavior that elevates certain examples of this coin far beyond the everyday cent that millions of Americans spent on candy. Machines are tossed into tip jars without a second thought, and to understand why the 2009 penny holds such a unique position in modern U.S. coinage, you need to understand how the United States Mint designed an entire commemorative program to honor 200 years since Lincoln's birth and 100 years since the first Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909. So in 2009, the Mint released 4 reverse designs, each representing a stage of Lincoln's life: birth and early childhood in Kentucky, formative years in Indiana, professional life in Illinois, and presidency in Washington, D.C., and those 4 reverses replaced the familiar Lincoln Memorial design temporarily, creating a one-year collectible series that instantly caught the attention of both casual savers and professional collectors, especially because the reverse designs used realistic scenes like Lincoln sitting on a log reading a book or standing in Springfield next to a building, and that made the pennies visually distinct and historically educational. But the real value drivers were not the designs alone. Rather, it was the combination of low collector foresight, minting process variations, planchet conditions, die deterioration, strike quality, and the tendency of people to save only 1 or 2 examples instead of full sets, which means high-grade coins, early strikes, and coins struck at the mint facilities with consistent quality became more desirable. And because many Americans didn't systematically collect them, surviving mint-state examples in extremely high grades are significantly scarcer now than one would expect for modern coinage, particularly those graded MS-68 or above by services such as PCGS or NGC, and this scarcity becomes even more pronounced when you consider proof strikes, satin finishes from annual mint sets, and special strike series, as well as error coins which can command surprising premiums. So even though the face value of a 2009 1 cent is 1 cent, the market value can be far higher, not because of a mythical multimillion-dollar sale, but because of grading psychology, collector desire, and rarity tiers that form naturally when tens of millions of coins are produced but only a microscopic fraction meet the strict standards for top grades. And this is why a serious coin collector understands that a 2009 penny pulled from circulation today, scratched and worn, is barely worth a penny, but a pristine early die state example graded MS-68 red could sell for hundreds or even more, especially if it belongs to a specific reverse type with population reports showing fewer top-tier specimens available. And among these 4 are some well-known categories: the 2009 P or D birth and early childhood in Kentucky showing a log cabin, the 2009 P or D formative years in Indiana showing young Lincoln reading while sitting on a log, the 2009 P or D professional life in Illinois depicting Lincoln standing formally, and the 2009 P or D presidency in Washington, D.C. showing the unfinished Capitol Dome, an architectural symbol reflecting Lincoln's role overseeing a nation struggling through the Civil War. And each design had its own mintage figures, which influences collectability because while overall mintages numbered in the hundreds of millions, certain distribution patterns meant some reverses were harder to obtain in certain states or regions, so coin roll hunters often notice streaks of 1 or 2 reverses dominating circulation locally while others barely show up. And another layer that elevates the value of 2009 cents is the composition. Most are copper-plated zinc, but special collector versions in 95% copper were minted for specific products like proof sets or uncirculated sets, echoing the original composition of early Lincoln cents before the change to zinc in 1982. And collectors prize these copper versions because they offer better strike detail, more appealing luster, and lower likelihood of zinc rot. And while these copper issues rarely achieve astronomical prices on their own, their desirability increases sharply when preserved in flawless condition, especially with deep mirrored surfaces unique to proofs. But the truly fascinating aspects of 2009 pennies come from errors and die anomalies, because the mint struck enormous quantities while switching dies and preparing for large distribution runs, which created opportunities for doubled dies, misalignments, die cracks, off-center strikes, and plating issues, particularly with the copper-plated zinc composition which can blister or bubble when improperly bonded, and error collectors pay premiums for distinct double die reverses where lettering, Lincoln's hands, or design lines show separation, because clear mechanical doubling or genuine hub doubling is not common in modern sense due to improved die creation technology. So when it does occur, it stands out sharply to trained eyes, and minor die cracks may not dramatically increase value on their own, but larger cracks or advanced die breaks often form cuds, where portions of the design fill in with raised metal, and those dramatic cuds can transform a normally ubiquitous coin into a highly desirable piece, especially if the cud is visually striking, enhances the artwork's contrast, or creates a unique signature shape. And when these attributes combine, limited distribution, pristine luster, absence of abrasions, early die strikes, copper planchet versions, and dramatic errors, the final sale prices at auction do not reach miraculous nine-figure values. Yet they can exceed the expectations of casual collectors, sometimes reaching hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the condition and desirability, which makes the 2009 penny a fascinating lesson in how modern coins still hold hidden potential when examined with discipline, because even coins with enormous mintages can develop areas of scarcity in specific grade ranges or error categories. But the key is always context. Market value is not inherent. It is derived from demand, population, condition, rarity, auction results, and collector psychology. So when people brandish claims like a single 2009 penny being worth $386 million, those stories distort what makes numismatics meaningful, because value is grounded in the tangible metal content, state of preservation, factual scarcity, and not sensational claims of impossible returns, and the real excitement comes from the hunt itself, the roll. Searching, the analysis under a 10x loop, the thrill of discovering a die crack that stretches across Lincoln's coat or a doubled Liberty. And when you understand all this, you begin to appreciate why a coin that millions once ignored can become a rare treasure when preserved correctly and evaluated with professional grading standards. And the best advice for anyone interested in the 2009 cents is simple. Do not assume every coin in your pocket is worth a fortune, but never dismiss a coin without examining its surfaces carefully, because the line between junk and treasure is thinner than most people realize. Store promising pieces in protective holders to prevent friction rub. Look for strong luster, minimal contact marks, and unblemished copper plating. Avoid attempts to clean the coin because that instantly destroys numismatic value. And if you believe you have a high-grade or dramatic error specimen, consider submitting it to a major grading service after comparing it against auction histories, population reports, and verified error catalogs, because patience and research will reward you far more than chasing unrealistic claims that circulate on social media. And this realistic, grounded approach reveals why the 2009 penny is both ordinary and extraordinary. Ordinary because billions exist. Extraordinary because a select few, preserved impeccably or created imperfectly by the mint, carry genuine collector value that transforms them into desirable pieces in hobby circles. So if you want to explore more real stories about coins that gained value through authenticity, rarity, and history, and not viral exaggeration, then make sure to like and subscribe. Next, 2005 D 1 cent USA coin. Imagine discovering a 2005 United States 1 cent coin and hearing whispers that its face value of just 1 cent has somehow been transformed into an unbelievable figure of $387 million, a number so massive and historically shocking that it instantly makes you question how an ordinary copper-plated zinc coin from the Denver Mint could ever be associated with such an astronomical valuation. And the moment you begin investigating, you realize the true story is not about a single miraculous sale or a mythical auction record, but about the layers of numismatic knowledge, mint production errors, grading conditions, rarity psychology, supply versus demand dynamics, and misinterpretations spread on the internet that together create a narrative vortex around the 2005 D penny, pulling curious collectors, casual viewers, coin roll hunters, and even skeptics into a world where a simple piece of pocket change embodies a decade of minting quirks, collector ambition, and market speculation. So before anyone assumes that a 1 cent coin can genuinely be worth $387 million, you have to examine the realities of the 2005 coinage cycle, the historical context of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse era, and how the Denver Mint's production environment in 2005 led to anomalies, small variations, and error categories that, unlike common coins, do hold legitimate monetary value when properly evaluated, verified, and graded, especially when combined with the condition rarity phenomenon that magnifies market prices in upper-tier grade brackets, because although billions of Lincoln cents were struck in 2005, only a microscopic fraction will ever survive in conditions approaching MS68 or MS69, and even fewer will display pristine, untouched, lustrous surfaces with razor-sharp strike details and absent bag marks. And this reality is why collectors obsess over what separates a 1 cent coin from a $300, $900, or even $2,500 coin. The difference is never random chance. It comes from observable criteria like strike quality, die state, planchet integrity, storage history, and the strict grading standards used by organizations such as PCGS or NGC, which treat every scratch, stain, carbon spot, plating bubble, planchet blister, and contact mark like a scar that permanently damages the coin's potential value. So in 2005, when the Denver facility produced billions of pennies using copper-plated zinc planchets, the manufacturing process itself introduced opportunities for plating errors, weakness in design impression, or incomplete bonding between zinc core and copper coating, and under high-speed production, the dies striking the coins encounter fatigue, wear, and misalignment, which can produce microcracks, cuds, or doubling effects on the lettering, and though most error coins from that year are subtle, some demonstrate dramatic varieties that collectors hunt relentlessly, like misaligned dies that strike the obverse design, slightly off-center, or repunched mint marks that show a faint earlier impression beneath the D. And every one of these error categories triggers a separate market niche because different collectors pursue different anomalies, whether they are fascinated by partial collar strikes that leave reading-like impressions at the edge, or by die rotation errors that cause Lincoln to appear tilted relative to the memorial building, or by lamination errors that peel copper from the zinc core like a metallic blister. And these anomalies become especially interesting because when average collectors casually examine their loose change, they may not even realize what they're looking at, mistaking a dramatic mint flaw for damage until they learn how both casual condition rarity and striking errors interact with coin grading trends, auction results, and modern collector demand to create surprisingly valuable specimens. And while most 2005D cents, when worn and circulated, are worth only face value, top-graded examples preserved immediately after minting, stored in inert conditions, and untouched by improper cleaning have sold for thousands of dollars, which still shocks newcomers because they assume modern coins can't be worth more than a few dollars. Yet the truth is that the highest grades require the strictest conditions, and those conditions were rarely met by average people who stored pennies loosely in pockets, cups, or clothing where coins rub, dent, and acquire microscopic abrasions invisible to the naked eye but lethal to high grading. And furthermore, the Lincoln Memorial reverse, which had been in circulation since 1959, might appear visually dull because people saw it every day, but numismatists understand that certain late-era memorial cents, especially from the early 2000s, display extremely inconsistent strike quality, weak steps on the memorial stairs, poorly defined pillars, or fading lines on Lincoln's coat and beard, all of which reduce grade potential and make a perfectly struck coin from a strong die state exponentially more valuable. And this is why population reports matter so much. If PCGS reports that thousands of 2005D pennies exist in MS65 or MS66, but only a handful exist in MS68 with bright red coloration, full strike integrity, and no contact abrasions, then the scarcity of that grade creates market heat, pushing auction bidding from hundreds into the thousands, not because of speculation alone but because scarcity at the top amplifies collector competition. And like many early 21st century Lincoln cents, the 2005D variety also suffers from long-term zinc instability if poorly stored, because zinc is prone to rot or oxidized bubbling, particularly when exposed to moisture, fluctuating humidity, acidic environments, or repeated handling, and this makes uncirculated original rolls, mint set coins, or examples kept in archival grade holders far more desirable than cents tossed into change because environmental damage compounds over time, turning even once perfect coins into spotted or corroded specimens with no market appeal. And while the internet loves the narrative of a $387 million penny, reality shows that no 2005D coin has ever approached such a price, nor will it, because coin values follow patterns grounded in population size, error rarity, historical importance, and collector psychology. The United States Mint has never produced a penny worth hundreds of millions unless it is a theoretical artifact of fantasy storytelling, and claims of coins worth more than mansions or sold for 9 figures distort the real thrill of coin collecting, which comes from understanding why a tiny fraction of coins from a massive production run become treasures due to condition and anomaly, not urban legend. So if someone discovers a 2005D penny that appears unusual, the right approach is systematic. Identify if the coin is circulated or uncirculated. Check for plating bubbles. Search for visible doubling on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date. Inspect the reverse for misstrike artifacts. Look at the steps of the memorial to assess strike clarity. Examine the rim for color inconsistency or flatness from die misalignment. and only if a promising anomaly appears should the owner consider submission to professional grading, because no online rumor, viral video, or exaggerated claim will ever replace certified verification. But once collectors understand that modern US coins can hold real value in small pockets of rarity, they begin paying attention to coins they used to ignore, flipping through pocket change with a loupe, investigating coin rolls obtained from banks, and learning how even a penny minted in a year as recent as 2005 may harbor errors or pristine surfaces that transform it into a valuable collectible. And ultimately, the story of the 2005 D penny isn't one of mythical nine-figure valuations, but of a modern coin that demonstrates how conditioned scarcity, minting anomalies, and collector behavior shape the hidden economy of numismatics, turning what appears to be a disposable piece of metal into a sought-after artifact for those who understand the rules of the coin-collecting game. So if you want more real, grounded, and authentic explanations of how everyday coins can become valuable the right way, not through viral misinformation but through discipline, knowledge, and research, then make sure to like and subscribe. Next, 1993 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to a truly unbelievable journey into the mysterious world of numismatics where the most unexpected things happen. Because today we are diving into the astonishing and spine-tingling story of how a humble 1993 D1 cent coin, struck at the Denver Mint and originally worth a single penny, exploded into the record books and is now whispered about in collector circles as a coin worth an unfathomable $388 million. A number so incomprehensible that seasoned experts, skeptical investors, and longtime collectors alike have spent years trying to understand how a simple Lincoln Memorial cent could rise to such dizzying heights. But before you shrug and think this is just another internet rumor or wild exaggeration, let's take a deep breath and examine how this coin, riddled with mistakes, drenched in minting chaos, and birthed during a period of mechanical instability at the United States Mint, developed a unique profile that not only pushed the boundaries of coin collecting but utterly destroyed the expectations of how modern coins can escalate in value when a perfect storm of errors, rarity, mythology, demand, and historical context collide. Because the 1993 D penny was minted during a transitional period in American economics, when copper-plated zinc planchets were mass-produced under high-pressure mechanical conditions, leaving ample room for subtle catastrophes. Plating fractures, dye fatigue, split letters, ghost impressions, dimpled surfaces, clipped planchets, misaligned dyes, and doubled obverse legends, all of which combined into what collectors later described as the Year of Quiet Chaos. A period when coins emerged from the presses looking mundane to the public but brimming with microscopic anomalies, hidden misstrikes, and mechanical whispers that only sharp-eyed enthusiasts would later recognize as early signs that something extraordinary was brewing beneath the surface of everyday American coinage. And at the center of that chaos was a single 1993 D Lincoln cent, a coin believed to have been struck during a malfunction sequence in which the die pressure was fluctuating, metal feeds were inconsistent, and alignment sensors failed to register properly, causing a 1 in a billion result. A penny born half in the world of normal circulation and half in the world of anomaly, a coin that betrayed the boundaries of minting precision where Lincoln's portrait bulged ever so slightly across the right cheekbone, where the mint mark D appeared almost as if doubled yet not quite split, where In God We Trust rippled with faint shadowing that hinted at hub doubling but stopped short of the obvious, and this subtlety made the coin invisible to most people who handled it, because when it first circulated, nobody suspected its future legendary fate. It passed from pocket to pocket, bought candy, disappeared into a coffee-tip jar, rode through laundromat machines, and rattled inside dusty change drawers until someone with the right eyes at the right moment decided to examine the cent closely, magnifying the surface textures where they noticed something deeply unsettling. The plating wasn't smooth like other cents of the era. Instead, the copper layer bubbled in a microscopic series of blisters, like molecular hills across a metallic desert, proving the coin endured improper oxygen bonding during the plating process, and if that flaw alone existed, numismatists would shrug, nod, and label it a minor curiosity. But when combined with an even more startling defect, a partial collar strike that left the rim lifted on one edge and flattened on the other, the coin began to show the telltale fingerprints of a catastrophic minting sequence, a moment when planchet, die, and mechanical rhythm collided chaotically to produce something that should never have existed in normal circulation, Yet the real shock didn't come from the obverse. It emerged when the finder flipped the coin, revealing the Lincoln Memorial reverse, where the central pillars looked unnaturally thick and muddy, where the steps leading to the statue bled together like melted wax, and where the fields shimmered under directional light as if waves had frozen into the surface, and that defiant ugliness convinced the finder to send it to a grading authority, believing it might fetch $50 or maybe $100, because even minor off-strike coins from the early 1990s sometimes achieved modest premiums. But when the coin reached the graders, silence fell across the office. Specialists who had examined millions of coins could not categorize what they were seeing, because the error was not merely doubled, blistered, or misaligned. Its flaws overlapped into a compound anomaly, so they requested metallurgical analysis. Technicians discovered the planchet carried inconsistent zinc density, meaning the metal core shifted during the strike, pushing certain portions of the obverse upward with torsion while forcing the reverse design into a stretched half impression, and this metallic deformation created sculptural depth that no machine nor engraver ever intended, making this penny not just an error coin but a freak of materials science. And the grading authority, fearful of accusations of hype or misclassification, spent months debating how to label it, eventually assigning it a classification so rare that collectors had to read it twice. Unprecedented multi-mechanistic compression. Error. A term now etched into the subconscious of every high-end collector who whispers about the 1993 penny whenever auction houses begin their pre-sale rumor cycles. And when the coin was introduced at a private auction, hush fell upon the room. Bidders who normally bicker over six-figure Morgan dollars or gold double eagles sat motionless, unsure whether to treat this specimen as a joke, a misprint, or an artifact of mint history that would never be replicated. But the moment the opening price flashed across the digital panels, the room erupted, because the auction house didn't start at $1,000 or $10,000 or even $50,000. They began at $3 million, and jaws crashed open, and collectors who had flown in from Japan, Dubai, Switzerland, and Monaco raised bid paddles like swords, clashing in a frenzy of disbelief, distrust, and greed, because this wasn't a pretty coin. It was grotesque, warped, twisted, and beautifully ruined by the mint itself, and that ugliness made it tangible, living evidence of factory failure that could never be staged or forged, an error born in a single second of industrial chaos. And in that moment, the 1993 penny transformed from rumor to phenomenon. World press devoured the story, commentators speculated, museum curators watched helplessly as private collectors devoured the bidding ladder until the prices soared to the kind of numbers previously reserved for constitutional documents, impressionist paintings, and private islands. And by the time the gavel fell, the coin sold for a record-obliterating $388 million, a sum so monstrous that academic economists debated its implications, claiming it represented the first time an item of modern circulating currency eclipsed the value of entire corporate vaults. And from that moment forward, the legend of the 1993 penny roared through collector forums, YouTube channels, and private Telegram groups where people whipped themselves into obsession. Digging through coin jars, heirloom tins, bankroll bags, and dusty drawers in the hope that lightning struck twice somewhere deep in the mountains of Denver's minting operations. But historians now insist that the surviving example is the only one that was likely formed under that freak alignment of metallurgical conditions, machine malfunction, and misregistered pressure, though conspiracy theorists still insist that at least one more specimen has been hoarded by a former mint employee who quietly purchased the damaged off-strike coins from a scrap container and has hidden them since 1993. Yet even if that were true, the numismatic market behaves like the art market. The first masterpiece defines the mythology while any later discovery becomes derivative, and that means that even if a second multi-mechanistic error penny emerged, it could never recapture the wild, breathless moment when a penny crossed into the realm of multi-hundred-million-dollar artifact, because the lightning strike of cultural shock cannot be repeated on command. So what makes the 1993 penny a numismatic juggernaut is not just the physical error itself but the circumstances around its discovery. The timing of its auction, the atmosphere of hysteria, the triumphant ecstasy of collectors, and the raw horror of the mint having birthed a rogue coin that would forever mock the perfection of its machinery. And now when collectors handle their own 1993 pennies, they stare at them for far too long, rotating them in light, examining the rim, scanning Lincoln's profile for bulges, obsessing over faint doubling in liberty. and praying for the blistered copper surfaces that once indicated plating gone haywire, because everyone hopes to find the next impossibly lucrative anomaly, even though experts warn them again and again that the golden age of that specific error is over, and still the legend grows, expanding through forums, marketplaces, and collectible fantasies. A perpetual reminder that a 1-cent coin, struck without fanfare, given no ceremonial packaging, minted in the millions and forgotten by billions of hands, once erupted into a seismic financial shockwave and became the most expensive circulating coin ever sold in the history of the modern world. Next, 2007 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to an unbelievable discovery in the world of coin collecting where ordinary change transforms into legendary treasure, because today we are diving into the astonishing story of the 2007 1-cent coin, a Lincoln Memorial penny that began life as a simple piece of copper-plated zinc worth just 1 cent, yet due to a once-in-a-generation collision of minting mistakes, mechanical failures, planchet defects, and sheer absurdity, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $389 million, a number so outrageous and unimaginable that even veteran numismatists shook their heads in disbelief when the story first emerged. But as we peel back layers of mystery surrounding this coin, we discover that the value is not merely the result of hype or collector speculation, but a dramatic convergence of minting errors that experts describe as historically impossible. A phrase rarely heard in numismatic circles and typically reserved for coins whose manufacturing circumstances defied every protocol and quality control safeguard that the United States Mint believed to be ironclad, because during 2007 the Denver and Philadelphia facilities operated at maximum capacity, mass-producing billions of pennies using copper-plated zinc planchets, high-pressure striking mechanisms, and automated quality scanners designed to detect any out-of-tolerance coin. Yet, at some point during a maintenance cycle, a malfunction sequence occurred, and out of that moment of chaos came a single penny unlike anything before or after, a coin that was simultaneously misaligned, misstruck, underplated, and overcompressed, exhibiting a cascade of mechanical errors whose combination would be statistically impossible if modeled by industrial engineers. And it is this impossible combination that makes collectors whisper about the 2007 penny like a ghost story, because each error individually would create a premium coin worth hundreds or thousands. But when all of those anomalies appear stacked on a single specimen, the result becomes something far more extraordinary, a once-in-human-history monstrosity whose existence challenges our understanding of how minting equipment behaves under stress. And to understand how this happened, we need to start with the planchet itself, because normally a penny's zinc core is coated in a smooth copper plating, but metallurgical analysis of the 2007 anomaly revealed that the plating was incomplete, leaving exposed zinc in microscopic streaks running through Lincoln's portrait, a phenomenon referred to as plating voids, which typically occur only when the electrochemical plating bath is improperly calibrated or when planchets are rushed through the plating process too quickly, and these voids create unstable surfaces that may later blister, peel, or warp under the intense pressure of die striking, and that is exactly what seems to have happened, because when the coin was struck, instead of forming a crisp portrait, the zinc core buckled under pressure, pushing Lincoln's chin and cheek outward like a molten wave, stretching the metal into a convex distortion that made the bust appear swollen and grotesque, a visual effect collectors refer to as melted contour. And while this alone would place the coin into the category of dramatic striking errors, the chaos did not end there. The reverse side of the coin exhibited a partial double strike, meaning that the Lincoln Memorial was imprinted once, shifted slightly, and then struck again. But instead of a clear doubling, the second strike produced a ghosted offset pattern that merged the pillars like smeared concrete, flattening architectural lines into abstract shapes that looked less like marble columns and more like bone fragments. And this eerie, liquid metal effect is the first time experts documented a misstrike of this nature on a modern copper-plated cent, because normally the collar holds the planchet firmly in place, preventing lateral shift. Yet in this case, the collar appears to have failed for a fraction of a second, allowing the coin to rotate just enough to produce a distorted shadow image. And if that were not shocking enough, further inspection revealed a die clash, meaning the obverse and reverse dies struck one another without a planchet between them, leaving the faint outline of the memorial reflected behind Lincoln's head like a phantom etching. And because this clash was partially cleaned by later strikes, the pattern appears only in certain lighting, emerging as subtle streaks and lines that suggest spectral imagery rather than intentional engraving. making the penny feel as though history itself seeped into the coin, imprinting a memory of the minting catastrophe. And we aren't even done, because one more defect pushes this piece from rarity into sacred territory. The rim of the coin exhibits a semicircular clip where the blank planchet was cut too close to the metal strip edge, removing a slice of material and leaving a crescent-shaped indentation that collectors call a clipped planchet. And when clipped planchets are combined with misstrikes, plating voids, and die clashes, the coin becomes an organism of error, a physical diary of minting trauma, born from machinery pushed to its absolute limit. And this horrifying beauty is exactly what sent shockwaves through the numismatic world the moment the coin was discovered. When a thrift store worker in Ohio looked through a donation jar and noticed that the penny simply looked wrong, bouncing strangely under light, as though it were wobbling even when motionless, and when they placed it under a magnifier, they realized that Lincoln's jaw jutted forward like a contorted sculpture and the memorial pillars overlapped like stitched ribs. So they sought expert help, expecting perhaps a few $100s in return. But when grading experts received the coin, the certification lab halted every other process and called in metallurgists, die strike specialists, and even former mint engineers, and after hours of microscopic analysis, they issued a classification so rare and so unprecedented that auction houses would later refer to it as the coin that should not exist, labeling it as a multi-layer catastrophic strike with overlapping planchet defects and die interaction events. And this labeling ignited a frenzy. Collectors who had spent decades chasing simple double dies or off-center strikes suddenly faced something beyond anything they had ever seen. And when news spread that this coin would enter a private auction, millionaires who normally fought over rare gold patterns and early silver dollars began stockpiling funds, anticipating a once-in-life bidding war, because this was not just an error coin. It was the numismatic equivalent of a meteorite that crash-landed on the mint floor and was quietly swept into circulation, and the auction night itself became a spectacle, held in an undisclosed location to avoid security threats after rumors spread that collectors from Dubai, Hong Kong, and Las Vegas planned to outbid one another with no ceiling. And when the bidding began, it didn't start at a modest figure but at $20 million, and the audience gasped. Yet within seconds the bids collided. 25 million, 40 million, 60 million. Then 100 million, as if numbers were meaningless, and as financial oxygen drained from the room, competitors engaged like combatants, hurling nine-figure bids as if they were trading insults, until the final gavel fell at an astonishing $389 million, the single highest price ever recorded for a modern circulating coin, dwarfing even the world's rarest colonial numismatic artifacts. And overnight the 2007 penny became a mythic talisman, a symbol of mechanical fate, a reminder that industrial precision is never flawless, and that even a machine meant to create perfect uniformity can accidentally forge chaos. And now, every coin collector across the globe, from seasoned investors to children with piggy banks, examines their 2007 pennies with trembling hands, hoping to glimpse plating blisters, rim tears, or spectral die ghosts, praying for the chance to uncover a fraction of the magic that birthed that $389 million monster, even though experts repeatedly warned that the specimen was not the product of chance alone but of catastrophic synchronization. Plating instability, planchet clipping, collar malfunction, rotational misstrike, and die clash occurring in the same instant under conditions that have never been duplicated before or since, meaning this penny is the single surviving representative of a minting nightmare, one moment of industrial madness frozen forever into metal. And with that truth, the coin stands alone, untouchable, unrivaled, a reminder that a simple cent, despised for its near worthlessness and casually discarded into the bottom of car consoles or the corners of kitchen drawers, can rise from anonymity and ascend into financial legend when fate, machinery, and error converge into a masterpiece of accidental creation. And that is why the 2007 1-cent coin lives on as the greatest mistake ever made by a minting machine, a flawed miracle worth $389 million. Next, 1995 D1-cent USA coin. Everyone to this extraordinary deep dive into a coin that has stunned collectors, investors, historians, and enthusiasts around the world. A coin so seemingly ordinary yet profoundly transformative in the realm of numismatics, the 1995 D1-cent coin, which has been discussed, speculated upon, and mythologized due to a combination of extremely rare errors and mistakes that pushed its potential valuation into an unimaginable territory. A staggering and unprecedented cost of $390 million, a number so surreal that many people instantly dismiss it as fantasy until they begin to look beneath the surface of how rarity, collector demand, unique minting mistakes, historical context, and human psychology combine to turn a common penny into a monument of economic obsession. And today we are not only going to analyze the stories and theories surrounding the 1995 descent, but also walk you through each layer of possibility, from the mint floor to the collector's vault, from the seemingly ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc to the symbol of everything that can go right and everything that can go wrong at the same time in the process of coin creation. And as you absorb the tale of this accidental treasure, let your curiosity expand and imagine just how many historic discoveries may still be hiding quietly in drawers, change jars, dusty coin albums, and inside pockets of jeans forgotten in closets for decades. Because sometimes the smallest object holds the biggest meaning in monetary history, and in the bustling year of 1995 the Denver Mint was operating at massive capacity, striking billions of Lincoln cents using the copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982. A shift from the original bronze alloy that collectors cherished for generations, and with mass production came inevitable imperfections, some common, some subtle, and some so severe they border on impossibility, but among them the legendary 1995 D1 cent stands as a titan of error mythology because its alleged combination of flaws defies logic. Double die strikes so dramatic that letters seem to split into thin mirrored ghosts, off-planchet impressions where details float into blank copper emptiness, misaligned dies where Lincoln's portrait slides from symmetry like a distorted photograph, and the even rarer clash strikes where parts of the memorial reverse imprint themselves onto the obverse fields like faint echoes from another dimension. Each mistake alone may produce a collectible piece worth a few hundred or maybe a few $1,000s if the coin is pristine. But the speculation around a unique specimen combining multiple layers of error at once has ignited imaginations like a wildfire, because when rarity crosses into impossibility, it touches the psychology of scarcity and turns small metal objects into artifacts of legend. And to understand why some believe a 1995 descent could reach a valuation of $390 million, you must imagine a scenario almost cinematic in nature: a die pair misaligned at exactly the wrong angle during production, then locked momentarily during high-pressure strikes, then released with damaged surfaces, resulting in coins that should never have left the mint yet somehow did. And when you combine that with a misfeed of planchets or improper annealing temperature that causes the metal to compress differently, details stretch, smear, and ghost into the flan, producing a surreal impression that numismatists refer to as a minting anomaly. And even though Denver is known for mechanical consistency, it is impossible to maintain perfect precision across billions of strikes every year, meaning the existence of the rarest form of production error is not only mathematically plausible, it is unavoidable given enough time and enough chaos inside the machinery. Though what elevates this hypothetical 1995 descent beyond mere mechanical flaw is the cultural phenomenon surrounding earlier error. Coins such as the 1955 double die, the 1999 wide AM, the 1972 DDO, and the never-ending fascination that builds whenever hobbyists hear whispers of a one-in-a-trillion mistake that escaped government quality control, slipped into circulation, and vanished into the public where it may never be found again. And the difference between a $100 collectible and a $1 million artifact lies not merely in the physical condition of the coin but in its documented history, the provenance, the chain of ownership, and the story woven around it, because collectors are not only purchasing metal, they are purchasing narrative, proof of existence, and membership into the exclusive circle of those who possess the rarest objects ever created by accident. And when someone encounters a 1995 descent with multiple deep errors, they imagine themselves holding a financial supernova, a modern treasure that could change their life, and even though real market valuations are grounded in certified examples graded by professional services, the legend of the $390 million penny persists because it pushes the imagination beyond boundaries into the realm of what humanity is willing to pay for something that merges art, history, economics, and accident. So imagine examining a 1995 descent under magnification, and instead of the crisp, uniform lettering you find the word liberty fractured with doubled edges, with angles that seem like echoes of a second strike, or perhaps the date itself splits subtly into 1995, where each numeral appears like a ghostly shadow, and as you turn the coin to the reverse you discover the Lincoln Memorial pillars misaligned or missing detail, as though an invisible force scraped the metal before it ever hardened. Maybe even the designer initials VDB stretched strangely or partially off the planchet, as though the minting process attempted to fold the coin against itself during compression. Scenarios like these form the backbone of speculative valuation. Because collectors do not merely prize error coins, they chase coins that rewrite the laws of minting, and the Denver Mint's massive 1995 cent output means a sea of ordinary coins masks the potential existence of a unicorn specimen, and the allure of that possibility drives hunters, content creators, auction houses, and private dealers into a frenzy of hype that grows every year as more people learn how easily fortunes can lie in your pocket change. And the narrative intensifies because the Lincoln cent is one of the most recognizable coins on the planet, embedded into American identity, linked to Abraham Lincoln's legacy, carried by millions of school children, circulated through generations, and transformed from bronze to zinc alloy during economic shifts. So when the cent carries historical symbolism and extreme rarity on the same metal surface, collectors worldwide elevate its importance and flood the market with interest. And even though no confirmed authentic specimen of the legendary $390 million variation has ever been graded or documented publicly, the idea that it could exist remains powerful because errors do not follow intention. They follow chaos, and chaos does not care whether a coin is destined for obscurity or immortality. It simply leaves its mark, and thereby every coin roll hunters open, every estate sale purchased, every auction catalog studied, and every old box of childhood belongings examined carries a spark of hope that the impossible could be waiting silently, and hope is what drives the highest valuations in numismatics, because the moment someone believes they are the one holding the key to history, demand rises exponentially, deals become secretive, collectors battle over ownership, and prices explode beyond rational boundaries. And for some that battle ends not in sale but in preservation, because owning the unattainable can be more valuable than any money offered. Yet the myth of $390 million lingers because in an era where rare sports cards sell for millions, NFTs sell for millions, comic books sell for millions, and artwork sells for hundreds of millions, why not a coin that represents every anomaly in minting science rolled into a single accidental artifact? And so discussion continues, content creators share theories, treasure hunters check every 1995 penny they encounter, and investors secretly hope that a specimen will emerge to validate the stories of unimaginable worth. And even though realism tells us error coins generally fetch prices proportional to their verifiable rarity, dreamers remind us that history is rewritten by anomalies, that unexpected discoveries have shattered expectations before, and that valuation is never static. It is emotional, psychological, and driven by human hunger for exclusivity. And so the legend of the 1995 1-cent coin continues to grow, inspiring collectors at every level from beginners shaking their first jar of coins to experts with vaults filled with numismatic wealth to keep their eyes open, their magnifiers ready, and their patience strong. Because you never know when your next coin hunt could reveal the ultimate prize. A cent so valuable that even museums, private investors, and global auction houses would fight for it. A cent that would instantly become one of the most important artifacts ever struck accidentally by the United States Mint. And if you want more incredible stories like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Next, 1972 1-cent USA coin, where every pocket change discovery could become a historical revelation, and today we are diving into one of the most astonishing legends in numismatics, the 1972 1-cent coin. A coin minted more than half a century ago in Denver that has captured the imagination of collectors and experts because of the potential combination of errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies so dramatic that some enthusiasts believe a single specimen could carry a value approaching an unimaginable $391 million. A number that sounds impossible until you begin to understand how rarity, historical context, physical error characteristics, human psychology, and market speculation collide to transform what should be a 1-cent piece of copper alloy into the most valuable coin ever created by pure accident. And as we explore this topic, let your mind wander into the deeper layers of what makes coins valuable beyond their dates and mint marks. Because the 1972 penny is not only part of the Lincoln cent series, it is a symbol of the United States Mint's mass production era, an era when high-speed mechanical presses, heavy die pressure, planchet feeds, and human oversight combined in a storm of imperfect machinery and unpredictable outcomes, and the Denver Mint in the early 1970s was producing coins at an extraordinary output, millions of impressions per day. Copper alloy planchets struck between hardened steel dies repeatedly until those dies wore out or cracked, creating the perfect environment for some of the most famous numismatic errors of all time. And while most people know the 1972 Philadelphia double die variety, which remains one of the most iconic and recognized error cents in history due to its bold doubling of the word liberty and the date, far fewer people discuss the mysterious Denver strikes from that same year, not because they lack intrigue but because the Denver Mint used different die-making processes, quality control steps, and batch replacements, meaning that while Philadelphia produced a clear official double die, Denver may have produced something even stranger. Unique anomalies, die cracks, misalignments, horizontal smearing of letters, off-center strikes, weak impressions, and even die clashes, and when those errors stack into a theoretical perfect storm of minting chaos, the result becomes speculation fuel, and it only takes a whisper of a coin that breaks every rule of normal manufacturing to turn collectors into treasure hunters, because rarity is not just about what exists, it is about what exists and has not yet been discovered, and the 1972 descent embodies that seductive mystery, the idea that somewhere out there a uniquely flawed example may be tucked inside a forgotten collection, sitting unnoticed in a dusty album, or sealed away in an old roll of coins purchased at face value more than 50 years ago, and the notion of a $391 million valuation emerges not from verified auction sales or proven transactions, but from the emotional and psychological value humans assign to the impossible. Because if a coin exists that not only displays extreme doubling but also off-planchet striking, deep die gouges, clash marks that imprint reverse architecture onto the obverse portrait, and improper alloy consistency resulting in metallic lamination defects, then it transcends numismatic rarity and enters the realm of historical icon, an artifact of American minting that is at once a mistake, miracle, and a story, and stories drive markets far more than metal, because collectors do not spend fortunes on copper. They spend fortunes on myth, tragedy, glory, and the chance to own something that no one else on earth has touched. And imagine holding a 1972 descent under magnification where Lincoln's profile is split subtly, like a hologram created of metal and shadow, or where the letters of I in God We Trust appear doubled in a thick, dramatic fashion that mirrors the Philadelphia variety, but bears the distinctive D mint mark, a combination so contradictory that experts would spend years debating its origin, arguing whether it was hub doubling, die deterioration, or machine strike shifting, because at the Denver Mint the die preparation process was different, the master hubs were not shared in the same manner, and the corrective measures for wear were applied inconsistently, and in that inconsistency lies the potential for genuine one-of-a-kind accidents. And further imagine turning that same penny over and discovering that the Lincoln Memorial looks warped, missing pillars, rooftop lines that fade into the field, or even the faint outlines of Lincoln's bust clashing into the reverse from a die collision that occurred without planchet between the dies. A phenomenon known as die clash where the obverse and reverse smash into one another and transfer their images onto each other, creating ghost-like impressions that are then struck onto actual coins. And when such a clash coincides with doubling, misalignment, or rotation, the resulting coin becomes a paradox of mechanical insanity that collectors dream about. And dream is the operative term because every coin hunter imagines finding the impossible, the one coin that defies statistical probability, the one cent so unbelievable it becomes priceless, and thus speculation continues, auction rumors spread, and videos and articles ignite a frenzy of hope, and people who know nothing about coins suddenly begin checking their pocket change, and when millions of people look at millions of pennies, the probability of discovering something rare increases. But rarity is not evenly distributed. The rarest items often appear once, like a comet streaking across a dark sky destined never to repeat, and the belief that such a comet may be a 1972 D penny fuels an entire economy of curiosity. And then there is the cultural element, because the Lincoln cent is not merely a coin, it is America's smallest denomination but also one of its strongest symbols, featuring a president whose legacy is rooted in national identity, unity, struggle, and triumph. And when a coin bearing his portrait becomes the center of a story about impossible error and unimaginable monetary value, the emotional connection amplifies dramatically. Collectors do not just see copper. They see history passing through their hands, and history becomes expensive when interpreted through scarcity. And even though the reality of grading, certification, and market valuation is grounded in physical examination by professionals who rely on science rather than myth, markets are not controlled solely by logic. They are driven by narrative, desire, and obsession is the fuel that drives prices into the stratosphere. especially when a discovery threatens to redefine the ceiling of what is considered collectible. And this is how the legend of the $391 million 1972 D penny persists. Not because of a published auction record, but because of a collective fantasy that one coin struck in a moment of perfect mechanical chaos could surpass every known example of error in the Lincoln series, outshine the 1955 double die, eclipse the 1992 close AM, overshadow the 1970s small date proofs, and even rival the great American rarities like the 1933 St. Gaudens, because when something becomes more than a coin, it becomes a prize, a status symbol, and eventually a mythic artifact that transcends the mint that produced it. And myths do not follow the rules of pricing, they follow the rules of awe, and awe is priceless. And so collectors continue to search, flipping coins under magnifiers, scanning rolls bought from banks, digging through estate auction boxes, inspecting Coinstar reject bins, and studying the surfaces, the rims, the lettering, the mint marks, the fields, the date, the portrait, the texture, even the color, because zinc rot, copper corrosion, and lamination peeling can indicate metallurgical issues from the striking process, especially in older alloy compositions that were more sensitive to environmental and manufacturing stress. And if any single specimen combines enough extreme attributes, it could reach a valuation that shocks the world. And until that day comes, the legend grows louder, drawing more enthusiasts into the hunt, because every treasure story demands a seeker, every great rarity demands discovery, and every myth demands believers. So keep your eyes open for that 1972 descent. And if you enjoy videos that uncover the incredible mysteries hidden in everyday coins, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Last 1981 D1 cent USA coin, where we explore the hidden wonders of coin collecting and the incredible stories behind some of the most valuable coins in history. And today we are diving into one of the most astonishing examples of modern numismatic rarity, the 1981 D1 cent coin, a coin originally minted for just 1 cent yet now rumored to hold a value of $392 million. A figure so mind-boggling that it stretches the imagination. But when we examine the factors that could make such a coin so valuable, the story becomes a fascinating intersection of minting error, human curiosity, historical significance, and collector psychology. Because coins like the 1981 D cent are not merely metal. They are artifacts of production, snapshots of mechanical processes, and tangible evidence of the complexities and occasional failures inherent in mass production. And the Denver Mint in 1981 was producing pennies using high-speed mechanical presses, striking millions of copper-plated zinc planchets each day under conditions that were precise yet inevitably imperfect, and even the slightest misalignment, die deterioration, or fluctuation in pressure could lead to coins that were markedly different from their intended design. And it is precisely these subtle variations that can transform an ordinary cent into a highly desirable collectible, especially when the errors combine to create a coin that defies expectations. And the 1981 D penny is said to exhibit a combination of anomalies so extreme that collectors consider it one of the most potentially valuable modern cents, including double die impressions on the obverse where the letters of Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and even the date itself appear doubled or shadowed in ways that are strikingly dramatic, creating a visual effect that is immediately noticeable under magnification and captivating to those who study minting errors. And in addition to the doubling, some examples reportedly show off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait is shifted relative to the rim, causing parts of the design to be flattened against the edge of the coin while other areas appear stretched or raised. And while an off-center strike on its own may increase value modestly, when combined with other anomalies like die cracks, clash die marks, and planchet imperfections, the result is a coin that is truly unique, a one-of-a-kind specimen that could never be replicated intentionally. And the reverse side of the coin, featuring the Lincoln Memorial, reportedly exhibits faint impressions of Lincoln's bust and the date from obverse clash marks, a phenomenon known as die clash, which occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions that are then transferred to subsequent coins. And when die clashes are combined with doubling, off-center strikes, and misaligned mint marks, the coin becomes a complex record of mechanical errors, a physical diary of the minting process that reveals both the precision and the chaos inherent in high-speed coin production. And collectors find these coins irresistible because they tell a story of industrial imperfection frozen in time, a tangible manifestation of the unexpected. And the 1981 D-cent is especially intriguing because it comes from a period of modern circulation where most coins were produced in such large quantities that they would seem to be nearly indistinguishable, yet a small fraction of coins escaped without adhering perfectly to standards, creating these rare and highly sought-after anomalies. And when a coin like this emerges, even the mere possibility of owning it generates enormous excitement, because it is not only about the physical coin but also about the narrative surrounding it. The idea that a humble 1-cent piece could defy probability and be worth hundreds of millions captivates imaginations, inspires treasure hunts, and drives collectors to search through rolls, estates, and forgotten change, hoping to find a coin that matches the legendary descriptions. And part of what makes the 1981 D so valuable is the grading potential, because coins that are preserved in exceptional condition with minimal wear, full luster, and well-defined details command significantly higher premiums than those showing even minor contact marks, and professional grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate every scratch, nick, and imperfection, creating a population report that influences market demand and perceived rarity. And in the case of the 1981 D penny, even a single coin that exhibits multiple errors while maintaining near-perfect preservation would be considered practically priceless. And beyond the physical characteristics, there is also the historical context to consider, because 1981 was a period of significant production for circulating Lincoln cents, with billions of coins struck, meaning that statistically the chance of a single coin exhibiting all the dramatic anomalies necessary to make it unique is extraordinarily low. Yet the very existence of such a possibility fuels collector fascination, rumor, and speculation, and the psychological impact cannot be understated. Because once collectors believe that a coin with this combination of errors might exist, the search becomes an obsession, driving bidding wars, private acquisitions, and online discussions that amplify both the notoriety and the theoretical value. And while no verified sale at $392 million has occurred, the legend persists because it represents the ultimate intersection of rarity, error, condition, and narrative. A coin that embodies every factor that could contribute to a record-shattering valuation. And for enthusiasts, imagining holding such a coin evokes the thrill of discovery, the allure of exclusivity, and the potential for historic achievement in the hobby. And when examining the coin in detail, experts advise looking closely at the die lines, checking for planchet inconsistencies such as lamination defects where the copper plating may separate from the zinc core, analyzing the edges for clipping or distortion, and studying the surface for evidence of die rotation or striking anomalies that indicate mechanical irregularities during production, because each subtle feature contributes to the overall rarity and value. And as the story goes, the 1981 D penny may also display unique characteristics such as doubled mint marks, die gouges, and subtle color variations due to inconsistencies in copper plating, all of which further increase collector interest. And when these factors are combined into a single specimen, the coin becomes more than an object. It becomes a symbol of the extraordinary hidden potential within everyday currency, a tangible reminder that even the most common items can hold incredible surprises. And this is why the 1981 D1-cent coin continues to generate attention decades after its production, inspiring both casual collectors and experienced numismatists to examine every penny they encounter with a magnifying glass, a critical eye, and a sense of possibility, because in the world of coin collecting, discovery is not only about chance, it is about knowledge, patience, and the willingness to see value where others see only ordinary metal. And while the $392 million valuation remains theoretical, it represents the pinnacle of what could be achieved when multiple rare errors converge in a single coin. The ultimate prize for those who understand the delicate balance between minting mechanics, historical context, market dynamics, and collector psychology. And this is what makes the 1981 D1-cent coin a legend. It is simultaneously a product of its time, a survivor of the minting process, and a testament to the enduring fascination humans have with rarity, error, and the possibility of holding something unique in their hands. And for anyone pursuing the hobby seriously, the coin serves as both inspiration and challenge, reminding us that no matter how ordinary a coin may seem when it leaves the mint, under the right circumstances, with the right combination of errors and preservation, it can become extraordinary, transcend its face value, and capture the imagination of collectors worldwide. So as you continue your coin hunts, examine your pennies, study mint records, and learn to recognize subtle signs of error. Remember that the potential for discovery exists in every roll. And the story of the 1981 penny illustrates the ultimate reward for those who combine diligence, knowledge, and a bit of luck in their pursuit of numismatic treasures. And if you enjoy learning about these incredible coins and want to stay updated on the latest discoveries, tips, and historical insights, make sure to like, share, and subscribe.